Welcome back to Hosting.com Labs. Today we're doing something a little different. Now, in most of our episodes, we're solving a technical problem, error codes, plugin conflicts, that sort of thing, stuff that's broken and needs fixing. But today, we're going to be talking about something a bit harder to pin down. It's not broken exactly, but it is a problem. And if you're creating content for a website, a brand, or a business, it's probably already affecting you. And I bet you can already guess. We're talking about AI generated content and the absolute flood of it on the internet. And more importantly, what you can do to make sure yours doesn't get lost. I'm Lindsay. And by the end of this video, you'll have a clear, practical checklist to make sure your content stands out, regardless of the tools you use to create it. Let's get into it. Let's acknowledge the reality first. More content is being created right now than at any point in history. Generative AI tools have put a researcher, editor, and translator in everyone's pocket, available at any hour for almost no cost. That's really useful. And nobody is here to tell you to stop using these tools. But here's the problem. When everyone has access to the same tools, producing the same content from the same pool of training data, things start to look the same really fast. And users notice. Not always consciously, but they notice. There's a reason people are increasingly using the phrase AI slop to describe the content clogging up their feeds and search results. It's the content equivalent of fast food. Fine in the moment, forgettable immediately after, and not what anyone would choose if they had a better option. For example, in a 16-month controlled experiment by Search Engine Land, and happened in 2026 when they published it, 2,000 fully AI generated articles. And in 28% of those ranked in the top 100 in the first month. By month three, that collapsed to just 3%. It's also worth noting that Google's official spam policy explicitly states that using generative AI tools to generate many pages without adding value for users may violate Google's spam policy on scaled content abuse. Google also instructed its manual review team to mark AI content as low quality, meaning your overall domain ranking will be affected negatively. The competitive space for content SEO used to be relatively clear. You'd find the highest search volume queries in your space, study what was already ranking, and use a technique called skyscraping to build something more complete. For those of you new to that game, the theory behind skyscraping is to find the highest ranking articles, review all of the content it focused on, and add something new and relevant. It is called skyscraping as you are choosing content that already performs the very best, using that as a base and adding to it, just like a skyscraper. Now, skyscraping takes about 30 seconds with a well written prompt. Any advantage you had from being thorough and comprehensive has been eroded because thoroughness and comprehensiveness are exactly what LLMs are good at producing at scale. Simple queries, the ones people want quick answers to, are increasingly being answered directly in Google's AI overviews before a user even needs to click anywhere, let alone reach your site. User behavior has shifted, and if your content strategy hasn't shifted with it, you're creating for a path that just no longer exists. Before we talk about what to do, let's talk about what to avoid, because the telltale signs of AI generated content are increasingly easy to recognize. And once you see them, you can't unsee them in today's fast paced digital landscape. If you've written or published this sentence recently, this is officially your intervention. This opener and variations of it appears in so much AI generated content that it has become a signal of low effort before the reader has read a single meaningful word. Start with something specific. Start with the problem. Start with a question. Start anywhere other than with a landscape. Overly balanced viewpoints. LLMs are trained to be balanced. They present multiple sides, hedge their claims, and avoid strong positions, which makes for deeply uninteresting content. Real expertise has opinions. If your content never commits to a position, it reads like it was written by something that's never actually done the thing it's writing about. It's not just about X, it's about Y. This sentence construction is everywhere right now. particularly on LinkedIn. It's become so associated with AI generated content that many readers scroll past it on instinct. This one's hard for me. It's the word actually. Because ironically, actually is appearing more and more in AI content as a way to add emphasis. It's one of the more recent patterns to watch for, actually. No personality, no specifics, no sources. Content that could have been written about any company in any industry at any time has a problem. If there are no links to original research, no references to firsthand experience, no unique data, and no named people or examples, you have content that adds nothing to the conversation. Not because AI wrote it, but because nobody brought anything human to it. And just to be clear, using AI in your content process doesn't automatically produce any of these problems. Plenty of AI assisted content is specific, opinionated, well sourced, and genuinely very useful. The issue is when AI is used as a replacement for thinking rather than a tool to support it. Here's the thing that matters most in this conversation: there are things AI genuinely cannot do, and they happen to be the things that make content worth reading. AI hasn't lived your story. It can't interview a real person and capture the texture of that conversation. It can't run a genuine survey of your specific customers and report back what they actually said. It can't attend an event and come back with a perspective shaped by being in the room. It cannot learn in real time through face to face interactions, through experience, through being wrong about something and updating its view because of what happened next. These are not small gaps. These are exactly the things that create the connections that turn impressions into clicks and clicks into customers. Recently, I was at press conference in Phoenix talking to a lot of my WordPress friends about what they were doing with all of this AI content in the world. And one of them shared a secret with me that I guess now I'm sharing with you. So, not much of a secret. Anyway, they are going back to all of their mediocre performing content and updating it with personal examples and story. And when it makes sense, adding video. I was astounded by this because I would not have gone to mediocre or poor performing content. I think I would have just like collapse it into another piece of content instead of focusing on that. But they told me that by adding these conversations and adding depth to that content, it was just like going fireworks for them. So, what used to be mediocre content is now flourishing. And now I'm doing the exact same and seeing the exact same results. I would have never known that without being in that room for that conversation. Multiply that example by hundreds of times that I've learned from the people I'm around and applied it, and you have something really special and something that can't be replicated. The depth and specificity that comes from doing something in real life, like talking to someone and holding a position based on experience, is both authentic and a form of purely practical SEO perspective, increasingly valuable. Google has been clear that its standards for high rankings center on content that is genuinely helpful to users and not bots, genuinely helpful to people. And if you want to see one of our recent debates on these types of perspectives, you can actually go look at the Press Conf YouTube channel and see that closing panel. So, now the opinion question. There's a reason content with a clear point of view performs better. We are naturally more engaged when there's a little friction, when something challenges an assumption or commits to a position or says something you weren't expecting. LLMs can't give a strong opinion. No, not really. They produce balanced, unbiased language almost by design. That means the space for content that says something is getting larger, not smaller, as more AI content floods the market. Be specific, be opinionated, be willing to say something is bad or wrong or worth doing differently. That's not a risk to your brand, not in the current space that we're living in. It's one of your clearest differentiators. The key thing is to remember EAT, E-E-A-T: experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. It's a mouthful. It is a framework within Google's search quality radar guidelines used to evaluate content quality, ensuring searchers find reliable, trustworthy information. Always try to use real human quotes, fresh and relevant data, and lived experiences. So let's talk about what this means for SEO specifically, because the rules have shifted here too. Not long ago, authority in SEO came from a balance of backlinks and content. Then it expanded to include user experience. Now it's fully omni-channel. How your brand is talked about across the whole web, linked and unlinked, matters in ways it didn't before. Link farms are dead. Reporting spammy backlinks is largely a waste of time. What builds trust now includes things like unlinked brand mentions. You don't even need the link anymore. Google is reading all of that context and understanding it. We also know this to be true due to the phasing out a beloved SEO schema such as the FAQ rich results that's disappearing in May of 2026. This doesn't mean not to add FAQs to content anymore, just that the schema isn't needed and the models are getting smarter and more sophisticated at detecting semantics. What this means practically is that your SEO content strategy should follow where genuine engagement is happening. What are people reading and where are they reading it? What's getting shared? What are people saying about you online in forums, in comments, in reviews? That's where your content should be built from. So let's go over this practical checklist. The 6 questions to run any piece of content through before you publish, whether it was written by a human, AI, or a combination of both. 1, is this answering something that already gets handled in an AI overview? If the query is simple enough that Google answers it before anyone clicks, you need a different angle. Go broader, go deeper, or find a more specific question your audience has. 2, is there a newsworthy angle here? Original data, a timely announcement, a fresh perspective on something that just happened. These are things AI cannot produce on its own, and they're exactly what earns attention and links. 3, are you really saying something? Not playing it safe down the middle, not presenting 5 sides without committing to one. Are you solving a problem clearly or answering a question? Say what you mean. 4, do you have the authority to answer this question? If the answer is yes, bring your experience to it. If the answer is no, interview someone who does. Reference real research. Bring in an authoritative angle that gives readers a reason to trust what they're consuming. 5, is there a clear author and are sources named? Trust is built over time. A real name on a piece of content with linked sources and verifiable references signals to both readers and search engines that a person stands behind this. That matters more now than it ever has. 6, is this relevant to your niche and your audience? You're allowed to cover multiple topics and serve multiple audience segments, but straying completely from your area of expertise dilutes your topical authority. Especially as the web becomes more agentic, relevance and focus are increasingly important signals. Here's the thing worth holding on to from today's video: AI is a useful tool. It's making people faster, more productive, and more capable of creating at scale. That's real, and it's not going away. But the content that will stand out, that will build trust, earn attention, and rank as search evolves is content that is rich enough to be read and cited by LLMs, not thin enough to be produced by one. Right now is the right time to build your brand's voice, document your real expertise, and share your genuine perspective. The people doing that now are building the kind of authority that compounds over time. Producing generic content at scale, those people are building a stack of things that are immediately forgettable. So, your checklist from today: avoid the generic patterns that signal low effort. Bring opinions, specifics, and firsthand experience to everything you publish. Think about SEO as building genuine trust across channels, not just chasing high volume keywords. And before you publish anything, run it through all 6 of those questions. If you're building a site or a brand from scratch and want a solid foundation to publish from, head over to hosting.com to get started. We'll link the full article that this episode was based on in the description below. Thanks for watching hosting.com Labs. If this was useful, share it with the person on your team who's been copy pasting from ChatGPT without reading it first. You know who they are. And I'll see you in the next one.